Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Patricia Arredondo and Dr. Kent Butler for joining me. Dr. Taunya Tinsley, I'm the current president for the Association for Multicultural Counseling and Development. I'm really excited. I'm honored to have you both with me. Dr. Patricia Arredondo is a past president for the Association for Multicultural Counseling and Development, where she was the president from 1996 to 1997. She is also a past president for the American Counseling Association, where she was the president 2005 through 2006 year. That is the year where I met Dr. Arredondo working on some sports counseling interest network. Also my colleague here, Dr. Kent Butler, I'm really excited to have him as well. He is an AMCD Past-President, where he was president during the 2011-2012 academic year. And we are so excited, so excited. He was just elected as the 70th president of the American Counseling Association, President-Elect Elect. And he will start his term as president of the American Counseling Association on July 1st, 2021. So thank you both for being here today. I was thinking about, with everything going on with this coronavirus pandemic, this health crisis, I knew that as president, I needed to put out a leadership statement, and I just kept pausing and thinking about how I wanted to do this. And it finally came to me that I don't need to do it alone. We are a team, and we are not designed to be on an island alone. So I really thought about, let's have a collaborative discussion on what is happening and why this is important for the Association for Multicultural Counseling and Development. So before we get into our discussion, I just want to share with our viewers a little bit more about the Association for Multicultural Counseling and Development, AMCD. We seek to develop programs specifically to improve ethnic and racial empathy and understanding. Its activities are designed to advance and sustain personal growth and improve educational opportunities for members from diverse cultural backgrounds. AMCD is charged with the responsibility of defending human and civil rights as prescribed by law. It encourages changing attitude and enhancing understanding of cultural diversity. Provisions are made for in-service and pre-service training for members and for others in the profession. Efforts are made to strengthen members professionally and enhance their ability to serve as behavioral change agents. Operationalization of multicultural counseling competencies by AMCD represents a benchmark for the counseling profession and the American Counseling Association. AMCD is a division of our national organization, the American Counseling Association. So just to kind of give a brief bullets of our mission is to recognize the human diversity and multicultural nature of our society, to enhance the development, human rights, and psychological health of ethnic and racial populations and all people as critical to the social, educational, political, professional, and personal reform in the United States and globally, to identify and work to eliminate conditions which create barriers to the individual development of marginalized populations, to develop, implement, and foster interest in charitable, scientific, and educational programs designed to further the interests of marginalized populations, to secure equality and access of treatment, advancement, qualification, and status individuals and families in counseling, wellness, and mental health. And finally, to publish a journal and other scientific, educational, and professional materials with the purpose of raising the standards of all who work in providing counseling, wellness, and mental health. So with that brief overview, I just really want to kind of start off, as I shared with Dr. Arredondo and Dr. Butler, here in Montgomery County in Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia, Governor Wolf announced the beginning of shutting down and social distancing on March 12th. So for me, it's been a month. And as I reflect on my journey personally, the first couple weeks transitioning all of my clients to telehealth, my students to online platform, I'm at Villanova University, and it's a traditional face-to-face class, so this was new for many of my students. So I realized for the first 2 or 3 weeks, I was on automatic pilot. When I finally sat down, that's when it really hit me, and I was flooded with emotions, my own emotions, like what's happening with my family, what does this mean for me personally and emotionally, and what's happening with my friends and my colleagues in the profession. So with that being said, I would like to just ask you both, what has this journey been like for you personally? Dr. Arredondo, would you like to start?
Thank you, Dr. Tinsley. And I want to start by thanking you for inviting us to this webinar and for providing this service to our membership and to other individuals, because it is an important time for connections and an important time to reaffirm that there are many people who are available to support, to listen, and I guess to apply our best counseling skills during this time. When I think about it, on a personal level, I have found my family is so dispersed. No one lives in Arizona, and I have to maintain then, regular contact like everyone else does through phone calls, through WhatsApp, through text messages, and that keeps, I think, the connections alive. There are actually so many people in my family, so that's one level. And then I have, like everyone, a lot of good friends, who maybe have been started out as professional colleagues, and we've known each other forever, and we're friends, and individuals like that, which means a different kind of communication, and I find that we're using Zoom to communicate so that we can have a conversation like we're doing right now. And personally, I'm hopeful that we will all support one another to get through this, because there are clearly, I'm at an advantage. I mean, I'm in a privileged position as a professional currently, and I think about all the people who have lost their employment, particularly in the service industry and the hospitality industry, and they're already not paid well, and so they have no health insurance, and probably right now aren't hopeful about going back to work, because it's going to be a slow recovery, I believe. So I feel on a very personal level fortunate, and I give thanks every day about that. It's very privileged. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Butler?
Greetings, and thank you again, Dr. Tinsley, for allowing me to be a part of this and to be with Dr. Arredondo. I'm especially happy to be a part of this, because I think AMCD has been this for me for so many, many years. I came in afraid of people like Dr. Arredondo. I was a student. I was like, I'm not worthy. And I can't tell you how blessed I am to have her in my life, because of one thing, she never made me feel that way. I can imagine what it felt like when you first met her. We assign people this celebrity, and we put them on pedestals, and then they turn out to be just human beings who just love on us and treat us the way that we should be, and by all people. And so I want to thank her personally, because she's one of my role models, one of my mentors. She's one of the people I stand on the shoulders of, because I wouldn't be here without the likes of her. I piggybacked a lot of what she has done in her career, and I hope she's okay with that. But I truly, I love her and all my AMCD elders and mentors who have kind of stayed and put that into effect for me. Now, in terms of this pandemic, personally, it's taken a toll, only because I've lost loved ones, 3 in the last 2 weeks. one to COVID, and a 14-year-old niece who had a brain hemorrhage. And so the pandemic has been such that we're sheltering in place and not able to move and go anywhere. And so there's families who are hurting, who are in need of the support. And all you can do is, as Dr. Arredondo said, is Zoom in, text or call, and not have that family communion that typically has been the thing that we do. And so, so sheltering in place has been pretty interesting in that regards. And so you keep yourself busy. You do things. You know, one of the things I think, like the professionalism side of me, I still have to go to work, and so that keeps me busy. And making sure that the University of Central Florida is still kind of thriving and will come back after this has passed by. I'm hopeful every day. I do pray. I've gotten more into gospel music and everything else. I watched Joel Osteen on yesterday and his choir, which I thought was phenomenal. So things like that have kept me in check. But also checking in with people. I've checked in with my aunts on yesterday and just called them all, and just those types of things are helping keep me sane. And I know that we need to be on the forefront of this always. I mean, I think telemental health has been helpful, but people need that human contact and they need us. And so when we come back from this, I'm very hopeful that we as counselors recognize what our skills are able to do, because this is going to be on and popping, so to speak, when this is lifted. And I'm just very hopeful that it's going to lift and soon. So thank you for that question.
Thank you. And I'll just add, so first, I would agree with the sentiments with Dr. Arredondo being a great mentor, a great colleague, a great friend. I don't think that I would have been able to move forward in my career with my specialty of sports counseling without her support at the national level. Dr. Butler, you've been a great support and mentor for me as well. And one of the things that I just want to point out, even though I was on autopilot for the first couple weeks of this stay at had to reach out back to my own counselor, and we engaged in telehealth just so that I could make sense of my own experience, and just so that I could process, so that I could be present for my students as well as my clients. So I just want to say, for those listening, we are human first. Dr. Butler reminded me of that last night. We are human first, and so to be effective in our professional role, we have to really make sure that we are engaging in our own self-care, because we know in this profession, compassion fatigue is real, burnout is real, and we know as a result of this pandemic and health crisis, we as counselor educators, professional counselors, we are going to be needed more than ever. So it's really important to take care of self. The other thing is, I knew that I was a leader in AMCD, and I started feeling guilty because I wasn't devoting time to AMCD as I would like, because I was trying to get my students and my clients. And so that kind of built up a little bit of guilt for me. And so I really had to work through that. So I want everybody to know, I appreciate each of you who are part of AMCD and your leadership and your role, and please try not to feel guilty, because we understand we are human first and we have to take care of self. And if you need to reach out to us as colleagues, I remember when I was dealing with some professional career issues a few years ago, Dr. Cortland Lee said to me, "Why didn't you reach out? We're here for you." And I'm saying that to all of you now. All of us, Dr. Arredondo, Dr. Butler, and anybody else in AMCD, that's what we're here for the support. And if you need more than just consultation and a friend and a colleague, don't be afraid to seek out your own counselor. Even a counselor needs a counselor. So with that being said, some of the concerns that I've heard not only from our AMCD leaders and our membership, but it's also affecting our clients. This whole idea of phobias and xenophobia and how that's impacting members of the Asian American population, the Pacific Islander population. It doesn't help when it is being said publicly from a national level that this is a Chinese virus. How do we address this as a membership with AMCD?
Thanks for bringing that up, Taunya. And I know, of course, within AMCD, we are the leaders of ethnic and racial concerns for the association. We've been many years of consciousness on concerns and how to deal with these concerns. One of the opportunities perhaps we have, and there is a meeting on later this week, a general meeting, it occurs to me that AMCD can come out with a public statement regarding our support for Asian American colleagues, friends, the population at large, and in so many ways also condemn xenophobia towards this population in particular. So I would say a public statement led by AMCD on behalf of the association would speak volumes to what I know is a grave concern to many colleagues and friends.
I think that's a great idea. And Dr. Monica Band has reached out to me. She's currently the Vice President for the Asian American and Pacific Islander. And so we have talked about that. So I think you just put a charge out to me that I can put a committee together and we can come out with a statement. So thank you for that.
You know, first, let me just say to my brothers and sisters across the country and the world who see this, my heart goes out to anyone who's being troubled and oppressed by individuals because of their ignorance. So the thing that has really struck me is that people are fearful, right? People are scared and they run to what they've been taught, which has come from ignorance or hate, and not recognizing that, you know, there is a need for us to come together, right? To be one and to stop the nonsense that is happening because of someone's fear, right? I saw swastikas on a Jewish temple that was put up yesterday because someone's just being fearful or scared or stupid or whatever. I don't even know. I don't want to, you know, I don't need to classify that, right? I just need to let people know that it's just wrong. It's wrong to do that to another individual. And what I was thinking was, what if that was you? What if something that you hold dear was then taken and just stepped upon or trifled on by someone else? How would you feel about that? And why would you do that to another person? And it brings me back to the days of slavery and other things when people did not think of people as human, right? And I'm hoping that's not where we're heading towards, right? So this pandemic has made everybody scared, right? But the thing is this, our Asian brothers and sisters need our love and our support. And anytime someone sees something that is a microaggression or some type of assault on an individual, we need to step up and say something and be bold about it, you know, safe, but bold. And the fact that someone needs to learn that that's not okay. It's not okay to do these types of things to individuals. Everybody's hurting. And so to just even because of what national leaders have done or said, attach that to a person who's living in the United States during a time when this is happening, it just shows ignorance, right? Because the person's not in China, they're not teleporting, you know, genes or whatever from China every day so that they can be here affecting people. So using common sense is something that's necessary. And so anytime that we can help and support and cut down the types of hatred that's out there, we need to do that. And we as counselors can be voices for that.
Definitely agree. And it's been really tugging at my heart because there's a headline of an article that I saw this morning, but I've been seeing it the last couple of days. Mental illness is the next wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. And one of the things that we know that's real is race-based traumatic stress, right? PTSD. We're going to be dealing with many individuals who are going to need career counseling because of the unemployment and the job loss and the financial strain. It's going to impact families. We're going to be dealing with people that, I was reading an article from the nurses of local hospital in New York that were saying, you know I'm going to get through this because this is my passion, but I worry about how this is impacting my family. And I'm worried about the PTSD later on when I'm reflecting on my experience. So with that being said, what's the charge for developing, one, multicultural and social justice counselors as we continue to move forward? What's the charge for our counselors and our counselor educators in our profession?
I've been thinking about this as well, Dr. Tinsley and Dr. Butler, because I'm on a lot of listservs for counselors and psychologists, in Arizona and APA and so forth. And you are correct. I would say that we're going to go through this big process of loss, of a sense of loss. I think people are already experiencing that sense of loss that contributes to not only sadness, but anger and depression. I just finished writing a piece on the loss of job identity and what that will mean for so many people, and what that already means in terms of not feeling like they're worthy in so many ways at a very personal level, that they've let their families down. Now they don't have health insurance. So I think this sense of loss is going to be permeating, and it's already present among many people who feel helpless. So it's not learned helplessness, it's helplessness because, we can't control when the economy will get strong again. There's so many variables that are not within people's controls that are contributing to that sense of loss. I think the healthcare professionals, as you described so well, will likely have more incidences of post-traumatic stress, in so much that they've been witnessing a lot of death. And then in families, you can talk about the Kubler-Ross model of death and dying, and what it's like for survivors. So I think as counselors, I would say, need to revisit these paradigms, because even for career counselors, they have to understand it's not just supporting someone getting back on their feet, but it's dealing with that sense of loss of competence, loss of importance, and so forth. So I think there's a lot that counselors will be able to grab onto from our preparations in order to intervene.
Thank you. Dr. Butler?
So, it's really interesting. As I heard Dr. Arredondo speaking just now, I've had some conversations over the past couple of days of just the visuals that people are seeing. And she spoke to it in terms of the people in healthcare who are seeing people dying. But there are visions out there of people seeing mass graves, something that we never thought we would see. That was something that was happening, when they were killing individuals in the Holocaust and things along those lines. And you're seeing those types of images, right? So you say PTSD, but there's also continuous stress disorder that's going to be happening with individuals as well. So the everyday occurrences of things that are happening to folks that are going to be coming up because of this crisis. I would say that there's a lot that we don't have to reinvent. We have done a lot of work in this area, and there's a lot of researchers out there who have done great things, who have not necessarily gotten the press that they deserve, right? And I think that we have to build upon the work that they've been doing, calling them to the forefront to do these things in terms of trauma-related work. We've done that work in AMCD. And so it'll be really important to kind of see what works within the work that people have already done and just build upon those types of things. And, you know, and recognizing that, again, like you said, Dr. Tinsley, our self-care is going to be really important during this time because we're going to experience a lot of hurt and pain. We're going to be dealing with hurt and pain ourselves from what has happened here. And if we don't take care of ourselves and show how to do that in such a way that it manifests into the lives of our clients and manifests into the lives of our students and our colleagues, we're going to be doing a disservice to our profession in some regards, because it's important for us to kind of be the role models out there who are making these things happen. And so I guess for me, I think we have to have a lot of people out there who are innovative and creative and can run with the moment, but also don't forget the history. I mean, I always try to go back to the history and what has been done. Works by Sarisi West Olatunji on trauma and things along those lines have already come out of our organization. And how to just work and treat people, from the multicultural counseling competencies to the new multicultural counseling social justice competencies. There are things that we have in place that we can work from to kind of make sure that we are supportive and helpful in the communities that are hurting.
You know, I'd like to build on what Dr. Butler just said, and I know you've framed the question also, Dr. Tinsley, as far as the multicultural competencies and social justice competencies. When I think about the work we as counselors will continue to do to support people through this crisis and the consequences, it is about being culture-centered and being very aware and mindful that individuals are going to have a different kind of experience based on their cultural identity and their whole cultural heritage. We've already talked about the xenophobia towards persons of Asian American Pacific Islander heritage. What we know is that, just as one example, the Latinx population, about 50% of the Latinx population works in the hospitality industry and the service industry. So if we consider how to support that group of adults, their children in schools, the children in the universities, I mean, they're that kind of cultural mindset about the types of struggles many of these families had to go through. And now their greatest fear, if you look at the literature from the Pew Hispanic Research Center, is about finances and health. Because in many cases, if they've had health insurance, it's for sure gone or will be gone. And then finances, they're not the highest earners in the country if you look on average of what U.S. workers earn. So we need to have a culture centered mindset about equity issues, and that equity, we know, is not distributed the same way in this country, especially for persons of African American and Latinx heritage. So, you know, again, looking at the health crisis and the disproportionate number of Latinx and African American people who've been affected, not just economically, but in terms of health by this pandemic is horrendous. And one final thought I'll make is, when I saw that New Orleans could become a hotspot, this is almost 2-3 weeks ago, I said, it's going to happen there. The disproportionate number of African Americans in New Orleans who are living in poverty, who don't have great health care access, you know, my heart bleeds, because that's their city. And here we have what's been brought in by the Mardi Gras revelers. I mean, that's really where all that started in New Orleans and why it's such a hot spot. But I think the culture mindedness about equity and the lack of equity in healthcare access for our populations is now what we're seeing in terms of the overrepresentation in the cases and the mortality.
You know, I'm struck by what you say because I'm hearing all the statistics that are coming from the Black and brown communities or people who are being affected most by this. And something that you said just now resonated so much in terms of the fact that people brought that to them. Because by virtue of what you just said, working in hospitality and all that, but they don't have the money to travel and to do the things that people who have privilege are able to do. And then you think about it, and when you just said that just now, it just resonated. Mardi Gras, people coming into your home and leaving something that you had no intention of getting and you would not have gotten if you were because of your life circumstances, but yet you are now affected by that. And so thank you for that, because I think that's something that we need to recognize and be able to communicate about, because those are stark realities in the lives of Black and brown people who are always affected by someone else's choices because they can't control their own circumstances sometimes.
I thank you for both of you for saying that. I just pulled up some notes because I was watching a piece on CNN with CNN New Day Weekend with Victor Blackwell, and he had a faculty member from UC Berkeley and the former president for the American Public Health Association. Here's the reality of the situation that we're talking about. African Americans are dying from COVID-19 at much higher rate than any other racial group. In Michigan, African Americans make up 14% of the population and account for 40% of the COVID-19 deaths. And then in Louisiana, African Americans make up 32% of the population and account for 70% of the COVID-19 deaths. So if we start looking at these COVID-19 deaths by race and ethnicity, we are going to see some health disparities. And this is the key, because our testing being provided in these communities, do people have access to testing? And one of the things you said, Dr. Butler, is we don't have to reinvent the wheel, because this has been going on, this whole idea of health disparities, mental health disparities, access to treatment. And so I really just kind of want to say, in American Counseling Association and AMCD, we have a diversity of counselors and counselor educators, and these are clinical mental health counselors, rehabilitation counselors, school counselors, but we have a diversity of counselors in a variety of settings. You know, I brought up the athlete population. We're dealing with mental health with the athlete population, and now with their seasons being ended and how this is impacting them. We can talk about it by race, but one of the things that we have to do is we have to be able to saturate different communities and really implement programs and interventions to achieve health equity. And so we need to recognize and value all individuals. It's not by socioeconomic status, it's not by, we have to recognize all individuals. We have to understand historical injustices. That is the reality of the situation. And so we need to understand, as multicultural and social justice competent counselors, the impact of social and political injustices that impact the populations that we're working with. And then we have to provide resources. So wherever we are in our role as counselors and counselor educators and consultants, we need to be able to saturate and find different ways to educate. For me, I do a lot of consulting out of my private practice. I've honored a couple weeks ago Community Care Behavior Health. They said we are having a problem with brown skin clients coming in and utilizing services. How do we make sure that we're reaching out to the populations? I did a training, a webinar on how to integrate the multicultural and social justice competencies as part of community behavioral health programming. So we can do it with insurance companies, we can do it with organizations, we can do it individually, but we're going to have to also do it in the classroom. We know for CACREP, that social and cultural diversity is a requirement, but we're really going to have to be intentional even more, because these are the counselors in training that are going out in these communities, providing services to those that have been historically not served in an equitable manner.
So, thank you for that. Dr. Arredondo, something came up for me when she was speaking just now. I have asked you a question. So, all the work that you have been doing with regards to competence and allowing for individuals to recognize, working with clients who are different from them, how to make it not about themselves, right? How to learn about who you are and not take that and harm the client that you're working with. How do we, in your mind, and I don't know that we ever gotten there, and I don't know, maybe we have, but in your mind, how do we stop things like white guilt and people wanting to say things like, well, that happened to me, and you know, you're not alone in this and that, when we know the disparities that are happening for Black and brown folks when it comes to that? How do we change the conversation so that they're not, that they're not put off by the fact, and I'm not trying to give them power or control of this, but there's something that I feel like is missing in the narrative when people don't recognize that they have put themselves in the middle of something and then made it about them and not about the people that they're working with. And I don't know.
Yeah, you know, it is a complex example, and at the same time, it's one that comes up often. Certainly, when we're in the classroom with students, and in work settings as well, and with students, I think it's in some ways a little easier, candidly, because of the power differential. And you can kind of use it though as teaching moments in terms of doing role taking and, you know, putting them in exercises. First of all, though, I also think it's important to acknowledge shared experiences, because if we say, well, yeah, you had it, but mine, yeah, and I had it, but yeah, you're right. You know, we probably both have been, you know, victimized by microaggressions based on who we are, that we had no control over. And then, you know, there are other examples you can come with from outside. For example, right now with the xenophobia situation, you know, so some people could say, well, yeah, people have, you know, discriminated against me, or I have felt oppressed in this situation. My professor didn't like me. And then, but then you look at the reality. I mean, people who are visibly different, as Janet Helms has taught us, people who are visibly different have a higher experience of microaggressions. So if you are visibly different based on color, based on LGBT status, you know, you are likely going to be the recipient of more microaggressions. So what I try to do is bring in real examples of other people, so that I move it off my experience, and it's not you and me. It's like, well, you know, in this work situation, what I found was that the Asian folks were often relegated to jobs in, you know, small offices or something that actually has happened, so that people won't think that I'm not recognizing that there is a difference. I think what surprises me sometimes is how individuals, because I do consulting in higher education, and how people in higher education spaces are still in their own bubble, about their lived experiences, even though they teach, even though they are in a multicultural, a highly diverse university setting. There's some lack of consciousness about the kinds of experiences people of underrepresented groups have. And so I find I have to kind of bring in, as I said, some examples of what I have seen on campuses that has been a different experience for someone. And I always say to this person, it's in no way to say that you haven't had a bad time of it. I'm not going to take that away from you. But I just know from the kind of work I've done, this is what I've learned. And this is what I've witnessed. And that helps to have people reflect. And I love to do role taking. I really like people to assume they're the other person. What do you think that would have been like for you if you were that Asian woman on the bus in New York City who was attacked by 4 teenage girls because they saw you as visibly Asian? Right. Things like that, which have a little bit of a shock value, but you want to get people's attention too.
Yeah, and I agree. I think, I think about it, and I think about not just working with our students and our clients and then the world at large, is that, the conversation always goes left, right? When you have these kind of conversations, because people start to think that, okay, so you're blaming me for this. And I was like, no, that's not where this is going. This is like, let's have a conversation about the reality of the world. What people are experiencing that don't affect you, but it is affecting them. And as a human being, you should want to kind of help alleviate for individuals, right? But I'm always drawn or kind of suspect when people start to make it about themselves and say, well, I wasn't one. It was my ancestors. Don't blame me. And I'm like, well, the situation has occurred where people are still affected by what your ancestors did. So you're still a part of the conversation. And maybe you are not doing things that are demonstrated as hurtful on purpose, but you're benefiting from what others have done in the line of that. And so how do you do that? And so I thank you. I appreciate that, because I think it's important that we in our skill base learn how to do that as well. It can't just be us educating, because it's exhausting. It's exhausting educating people every day about what life is like, me walking out my door as a Black male. It's exhausting. And then when it's met with the opposition of, okay, I have to deal with this once again, right? That's going to lead to me being burnt out, which is wonderful. One of the reasons why I enjoy the fact that I can kind of reach out to my colleagues and friends and debrief, so to speak. If I didn't have that early on, and I think when I came into the profession, I had folks like Thomas Parham and Madonna Constantine and Patricia, you yourself, you all sold into me, and I wonder if that same thing is always available to the new people who are coming into the profession. Because when I came into the profession, we were kind of few and far between. But now there's a multitude of individuals who are coming in, who are masters and getting their PhDs. And I think that they need to recognize how to utilize us, how to utilize AMCD to kind of move forward in their careers. And that it's not isolated. You can't do this alone. We should want to do this as a team to kind of eradicate some of the horrible things that are happening. And I see change. I'm not, this person who's sitting there saying that everything is, oh, woe is me. But there is something about working with individuals that who just don't seem to get it or don't want to get it because of life lessons that they learned. But their life lessons affect others so horribly.
Well, their decisions affect others, especially if they are empowered decisions. I do want to come back to something you said, though, about our students and our, let's say, early career professionals. Dr. Tinsley, with another association I'm involved with, we are the leaders of the association, or senior members, all of us, are doing a couple things. One is we're hosting webinars with students. We're inviting them, well, not webinars, they're probably more like chats on Zoom, to come and talk to us if they're, you know, whatever kind of circumstances they want to share with, because we know that they're going through a hard time, especially as students, and you know, many students feel like their professors are overwhelmed too, so they're not the right resource. But we've started this with the National Latinx Psychological Association to have us chat with students about what they're going through. The other thing one of my colleagues offered was to have virtual office hours. So it could be that AMCD says, who among the past presidents or so-and-so would like to, host virtual office hours. And we just, you know, set up a schedule because students are going to be going through finals and papers and dissertation defenses in spite of what's going on. So, you know, not to put more on your plate, Dr. Tinsley. However, I think we could all support you.
I love it.
Doing this.
I appreciate you bringing it up, and you're actually right on point. So one of the things I will say, when I reached out to you both about this webinar, the timing was actually right on time, because this is the week that we would have been traveling to San Diego for the ACA conference. So it is my hope that when we upload this video, that is the beginning of a discussion and conversations. Last Thursday, I had a president's meeting with Dr. Sean Smith, who is our immediate past president for AMCD, and also President-Elect Dr. Kim Hughes. And we talked about just that, Dr. Arredondo. So Dr. Smith is going to be taking the lead to reach out to AMCD leaders about hosting a chat on Zoom with students, with leaders, new professionals. So that's going to begin after this week. And, you know, one of the things I'm really excited about, I thank Dr. Kim Butler for putting a fire under me, and Dr. Kay Cole, our conference coordinator. But this Friday, we are going to have an AMCD virtual reception. And I am so excited about that. So that virtual reception, we have a live DJ, and we did a trial run on Friday, and it is phenomenal. So the plan is everybody logs into Zoom between 7 and 10. You can come and go as you want, 7 and 10 Eastern. She will be playing music, and a variety of music and diversity of music, but I'm also going to create breakout rooms. So if people want to take a break from the music and go into breakout rooms, they can just let me know, or let Dr. Kay Cole know, and then we'll place them in a breakout room to have smaller discussions. So even though we couldn't travel to San Diego, the goal is this week to begin connecting and reconnecting with people, and continuing to do that through technology. Also,
I like the breakout room. Good. I like that. And I think that same thing translates to what Dr. Arredondo said about with doing this China chat thing. If we could do like if Dr. Smith puts them together like a weekly chat thing,
right,
that'd be wonderful. I think that's phenomenal.
yes, and he's going to be reaching out, because one of the things we just talked about is self-care and not putting all of the onus on one person. He's going to be reaching out to people to say who would like to lead this chat room and this virtual chat, and we will get it set up. And then also what we are doing is on Friday, we are having a virtual AMCD general body meeting. So the general body meeting is from 5:45 to 6:45 Eastern. And that's the Zoom link. And then we're gonna then have the AMCD virtual reception, which is 7 to 10. And like I said, people can come and go. We're gonna continue with our beach theme that we had. Dr. Kay Cole is gonna put some information on ACA Connect. One of the things we're also trying to do is make sure everybody's safe and secure. So in order to join the AMCD virtual reception, you have to have the password. That's nice, Dr. Butler. Have to have the password. So you get the password either by logging into ACA Connect, because it's listed in ACA Connect. We will send it to you if you are an AMCD member. And then also, if you're not an AMCD member, even at our ACA conferences, we had people who were non-AMCD members come to our receptions. And so you can still come. You would just need to get the link, because we know there's been some Zoom bloggers out there engaging in some discriminatory practices. So we don't want to have that with our reception. So you are absolutely right. And I appreciate you bringing that up, Dr. Arredondo. So people who are listening, just look out in your emails, on social media, for different events where we can stay connected. And then finally, I also want to remind, even though we are in this time period with this pandemic, the AMCD Summit was virtual. That was my goal this year. So we still are going to have the AMCD Virtual Summit in June, where people can participate in conference workshops, get CEUs, and another way to be connected. So I know I don't want to keep you all. We could keep talking and talking. But as we come to an end, Dr. Butler, I really like what you said earlier, Dr. Arredondo. We will get through this, okay? We will come out of this. But any lasting words of hope or inspiration?
The word that came to mind is resilience. And that we gain resilience, not alone, but we gain resilience in relation to our family, in relation to our friends, and the kinds of affirmations that we get, whether it's from our spiritual life or other outlets that nurture us, but that I think, especially as people of color, you know, we have had to and continue to walk the borderlands of adversity. And we're still thriving, you know, here as, again, privileged professionals. So to remind ourselves of the resilience and know that that matters, that in making a difference in someone else's life.
You know, every time I speak with someone, or I send a text or whatever, the thing I've been saying on my Twitter, and, you know, when I send out messages on Facebook or whatever, I say stay vigilant and safe. And that's my message to folks. You know, you have to, our life has changed. There's no doubt about it. We are, and what we return to, it's not going to look like what we were a part of before. And, you know, even when they lift this and allow people to kind of start to mingle again, we're going to go into this with some trepidation. We're going to go into this with thoughts in mind as to what does this mean to me anymore? Because, you know, and I don't want to bring negativity into this, but I'm already thinking, and I had a friend I spoke with yesterday who said that these things have already been trying to happen in terms of people trying to send out these types of viruses or whatever have you, and they haven't sustained. This one, as a part of a health condition, has, right? But, you know, there are devious people out there. And so now we have to be even that much more on top of our game when these types of things are happening. And so many people have been displaced. You know, I looked forward to going to ACA. I looked forward to doing these other things that we are not able to do anymore. So not only is there a loss of life and loss of what we have known, there's a loss of things that we have grown accustomed to doing that was taking away from us, right? And so when we're counseling people, it's not just loss that, you know, the losses they've had because of family members or friends, but the losses of just their life as they knew it that has changed. And so we have to stay vigilant and we have to stay safe in terms of making sure that we are there for people and taking care of ourselves.
I love that. So remembering that we are a resilient group of people, being vigilant, being safe. And then I will also say, you know, my last two things, You know, when it comes to healthy relationships, there's 4 C's that we need to have. Effective communication, conflict resolution. We know we live in a world full of conflict, so we're going to have conflict with each other, even amongst our family. And part of the healthy relationship is resolving conflict. And so we know that as counselors, as a person, we may be stressed, and that might spill over to our work with as a professional, but just really kind of staying vigilant to resolve conflict, having compassion and empathy for each other, and being committed to the process. And AMCD, if we are staying committed, we're gonna be resilient. If we are committed to communicating, to resolving conflict and having compassion. And then for me, I would just end on one of my favorite proverbs is Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. There is another version of it. It says, as iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. And let's continue to sharpen each other, my friends, as we move forward and come out of this COVID-19 pandemic. So with that being said, thank you both very much. I greatly appreciate you. I am just humbled and honored to have this conversation. And it is my hope that this conversation helps somebody else as part of our membership who is listening. And if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us, any one of us.
Thank you so much for doing this. And, you know, everyone, however you kind of spiritually bring yourself to this space, stay within that. You know, go inward and find who you are, and then come back and enjoy the world. I'm an introvert, and so some of this isolation hasn't bothered me so much. But there are people out there who are hurting that way too, who just need to be out there touching and being and thriving in that regards. And so, so again, all these things that we have to start to think about what we're going to be doing differently once we come out of this. But God bless you all, and I just thank you, and I'm honored to be a part of this with you two, and especially Dr. Arredondo. I appreciate your messages every once in a while that you send. Just know I love you, and love you both, and just continue to thrive. Stay vigilant and safe.
Yes.
Thank you again, Dr. Tinsley and Dr. Butler. It's really been an honor to be part of this, and I hope we leave something behind for the listener.
Absolutely. Thank you both. I appreciate you both. God bless you.
God bless. Thank you.